प्रत्येकाला राजकारणाच्या आपल्या बातमीदारीमध्ये काही आवडते राजकारणी जास्त आपले तयार होतात. वन ऑफ द मोस्ट फेवरेट politicians, though I can't say the same thing about the party. I would have loved to have him in the Rajya Sabha, but I mean that's what it is. So how do we go about it? You will make a statement and then
whatever you say, you suggest. You
no, first let's. I mean, the topical thing is obviously India. So what exactly it happened and why, as far as possible. I mean, what does that mean? The alliance and seat sharing and one-on-one contest. The statement says we will have to have consensus on candidate as far as possible. So overall, your impression on India exercise and particularly on this one?
Yeah, the whole idea of India, I mean, what essentially is happening from the way we look at it, and I think most of the partners in India also look at it, is that you have a systematic dismantling of the Indian constitution and the parliamentary democratic system that we have today. This is not something that is isolated or happening accidentally. As far as we are concerned from the left, we are very clear that this is happening on the basis of a certain vision of what India should be. Now, this actually goes back to nearly a century of ideological battles. It was in the 1920s that actually, I mean, you have the RSS being born, you have the Communist Party being born, you have the Congress Party coming to an understanding through the Motilal Committee report on what should be the character of independent India, which eventually came through in the Karachi and Lahore AICC sessions. So the battle was that to keep a country united like ours, with its diversity, plurality, etc., you'll require a political structure which is a secular democratic structure with a parliamentary democracy. The communists then argued that yes, of course, it should be a secular democratic republic, but it can't stop there. The political independence we gain from the British will have to be converted into the economic independence of every Indian, and therefore the movement should be towards socialism. This had a certain impact on the Congress itself, with Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, when talking about socialist ideas, etc. Now, as opposed to both these visions, was a third vision which had a twin expression, that India's character should be determined by the religious affiliation of its people. Thus was born the concept of an Islamic Republic that led to the partition, unfortunately, and the formation of Pakistan, and the rest of India to be converted into a RSS vision of a Hindu Rashtra. Now, this is something which the national movement and nobody else really accepted. And that was what led to the, anyway, I'm not going into the history, that led to the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi and all that followed. But the effort to convert this secular democratic republic based on the constitution that we ultimately adopted, to convert this into a Hindu Rashtra or Hindutva Rashtra, that effort continued since independence. It's going on till now. So the basic position is whether the character of the Indian Republic should be safeguarded, maintained, and why we also took the initiative to form this grouping of India was that all those who are today committed to safeguarding the character of the Republic, safeguarding this constitutional order, will have to ensure that those who want to destroy this constitutional order are kept away from the reins of government. Because it's using the government and the official machinery that you have all this happening. So this is the larger perspective. Apart from the other things that the government is doing, for which it has to go, when the way the central agencies are misused, the way the governors are behaving, I mean, the way federalism is being destroyed, center-state relations, and weigh the fundamental pillars of the Constitution, that is secular democracy, economic sovereignty, the sort of privatization and the loot of our national assets that's taking place, and federalism and social justice. These four fundamental pillars of your Constitution, they're all under assault. So for this reason, we think it is in India's interest, people's interest, that this government should be defeated, or the BJP should be kept away from controlling the government and the state power. So that was the basic idea of this grouping.
Yeah, but you are giving a very nice academic view of political urgency, which is not visible in other parties. For them, it's desperation. It's do or die kind of a battle. You know, if we don't survive, if BJP gets another chance, and we are finished. So, how much this kind of long-term view they have in mind? You know, I mean,
well, that is. We are only hoping that through the process of this India coming together and continuing, they'll also develop. You know, those who don't have will also develop, because it's not only a question of survival in the political system, but it's actually a question of whether the system itself will survive. If that doesn't, then many of these parties many of us become, irrelevant if the system doesn't survive. But you're right, I mean, some people have their own other interests, but the larger interest why we are interested in cementing this India is what I told you. It's not really academic, because it's actually got to do with your day-to-day life. I mean, your survival depends on whether you're, safeguarding the system or not.
No, it's academic in the sense like political parties, they don't look at it from the constitutional principles point of view. You know? I mean, what I'm going to get, what is my chance of survival, and then and then number of seats and the bargaining power. So, do they have this kind of seriousness, or is just opportunism, or the battle for the political survival?
Yeah, I mean, that is also definitely that's also part of the part of the interest, but it is, I think, to a larger extent, people are realizing the importance. I mean, political leaders and political parties are realizing the necessity today to safeguard this system, because eventually, even if the system doesn't exist, we all don't exist. I mean, the political parties is simply, I mean, if you have a fascistic dictatorship, so to speak, no other party will be allowed to be function.
But you are talking about the constitution the way it is. But there is a very smart move by the government to indigenize the constitution. No one is saying that it should be rewritten, but how it should be, I mean, the Indian context and how it should be relooked at and kind of thing, The debate started with Vivek Devroy's article, and one by one, slowly, they are all supporting. So, how you look at it? I mean, the whole constitution, there is an effort to give it an Indian look to the Western constitution.
You see, the semantics and the terminology could be whatever it is, but the content of it, what is this Indian look that they are trying to give? I mean, when you argue that we are the mother of democracy, and that democracy was there, always in our country. I mean, you go back to feudal monarchies and say that there's democratic practices. Practices can be there. I mean, nobody, even in the times of the Buddhist communes, so to speak, you had certain practices which are existing in our parliamentary democracy today. But the essential point of democracy is what? That you replace the political structure from a ruler and a subject into a state and the citizen.
Yeah.
Now, that is the basic, the foundation of democracy. So if you go back to the rural and the ruler and the subject relationship, it is not democratic. So Indianization means what? you're bringing the Sengol, for instance. The Sengol is what? It symbolizes the Abhisheka of a new king, who's got the divine sanction to rule over his subjects. So now, what has happened in the process of this so-called Indianization? You have a fallback or a return to the concept of the ruler and the subject, and not the state and the citizen. So that is the whole problem. So the nomenclature being what it is, the content is actually a throwback to the past. That's why when we popularly say it, the choice is between Bhoot ka Andhera and Bhavishya ka Ujala. Where do you want India to go? That is, that is what is happening today, and that's in fact so starkly that is the choice.
You talked about mother of democracy, India being mother of democracy. So there is a statement being made again and again and again about Akhanda Bharat. You yourself are a great expert on Indian history, Hindu history, and this mythological past. So I mean, do you have come across kind of a situation where Akhanda Bharat existed, and what does that mean?
I don't know. Historically, I can't think. Now they're calling it Ashoka's empire. Ashoka's empire, the map that they have on the new parliament building. And China, Nepal is objected, Bhutan is objected, Bangladesh is objected, of course, Sri Lanka is objected, because all these are part of the Akhand Bharat, including Burma, from Afghanistan to Burma. Now, if you look at the cover of the first edition of Golwalkar's book, 1939, book 1, we are a nationhood defined. He was articulating the RSS view of Swaraj. Swa means we, Raj means, who are we? And that is where the entire structure of the Hindu Rashtra. Very chillingly, he explains the whole structure. Now, there on that cover of that book is the map of Akhand Bharat, which is exactly what is taken for the Parliament new building. So, this sort of an Akhand Bharat, maybe in terms of the Mauryan Empire, Ashoka's time, it was what? 300 odd BC?
Yeah.
At that time, what it was. But if you go through your ancient, what you call shlokas and all that, the Vedic thing which they keep quoting, India is referred to as Jambur Dweepi, a giant island. So when that was after, what is it? So the movement, tectonics tells you the movement, the Deccan Plateau moved up, and then you have the Vindhyas, and then the India map comes in. That whole thing is there, but we can't really time it and age it unless you do some scientific study and then correlate it with Akhand Bharat. Whether that sort of a Bharat of that size and that borders existed.
But don't you think it's again a north view of India's history? Because there was an empire in this part of down south, Gautamiputra Shatkarni, which was bigger than Ashoka.
Ashoka, yes. So, in fact, your entire Cholas, down south, that empire extends till South Asia today. What is your Angkor Wat? What is your, and you go to Bangkok today, it says the king is now Rama the 15th. 15th or whatever be the number, I'm not sure. But they are descendants of Ram.
Yeah. So this RSS Hindutva view of India.
Next to Bangkok, there is a place called Ayutthaya. There's a river there. They say this is where Ram was born. If you go there, and they have their own Ramayana called the Ramakeen, officially published by the government.
So, according to you, the Hindu or Hindutva view of is India is necessarily north-centric, right?
Essentially, centric, but Now they are trying to appropriate, bringing the Shingle and all these things was actually to try to appropriate the southern traditions as well. But you see, beyond this, you just see what is happening today. The parliament inaugurated by the Prime Minister. Your constitution speaks of your three arms of your democracy as legislature, executive, and the judiciary. Each are independent, but they are related, but they are independent, and they have their own authority. Now the parliament, therefore, is headed by the President of India.
Yeah.
So the Prime Minister inaugurating the parliament is a stamp of the supremacy of the executive over the legislature.
Yeah.
When the Supreme Court Constitution bench gives you a verdict, you then bring in a law contradicting that verdict. Is what? Is again the executive using the legislature in order to override the judiciary? So your other two wings of legislature and the judiciary is virtually being usurped by the executive. No, that is a dangerous thing that is happening now.
Yeah.
Two verdicts of the five judge benches, one on the election commission, one on the Delhi government, Papa Sudan. Both have been overridden by new legislations.
But why it's so that people doesn't get, such kind of things, they are not interested at, what you say is absolutely truth, no doubt about it. But I don't see people, getting impacted by such kind of development. Why so? What exactly is missing?
You see, people are being deliberately misled also. Attention diverted also. And it always happens when you have, not only in India now, globally you'll find a political rightward shift. Where people's discontent is sought to be diverted or disrupted through the rousing of emotional appeals. Racism in the West, xenophobia, racism, you have, anti-immigrant feeling. All these things growing in the West. We saw what happened in France recently, Black Lives Matter, all these things there. And then you have this communalism in India. So it is this that takes the attention of the people away from the more basic issues, though they realize what is happening. The primacy is often your day-to-day living conditions. And there you're being fed with with poisonous hate campaigns and with communal violence against the minorities. Virtually some of the speeches that hate speeches that are given, calls for a genocide. These sort of things. Take the attention away from your other basic issues. And then the growth of unemployment. This has been a classic case that fed the rise of fascism, whether it's Mussolini or Hitler or anybody. Growing unemployment, private armies, that's the only way to find a job. And that's how the survival thing comes. And the brown shirts or the black shirts of Hitler and Mussolini, or what do you have? That sort of a thing, that is the danger. It's not that people are not interested or not aware. People are directed into channels that lead them away from paying attention to such problems.
But you see, this is the situation what we are in. Is kind of a indication of death of the left or end of the left.
No,
whichever way you look at it.
No, on the contrary, it is the left that has the clear-cut perspective and an understanding of the situation. And that is why, whatever be our parliamentary strength, why we are heard is because of these positions that we have. And the ability to influence the central agenda for the country. So I think, far from being the death of the left, this is a renewed opportunity. Though unfortunate situation, but there is an opportunity for the left.
But in, India, Kerala and whatever is of West Bengal left now. Why left is almost like invisible in any other state?
Well, you see, there are various factors, various things that happened in the past, things like that I'm not going to. But one thing is a large number of forces were not really very happy with the situation, where the left could actually influence the policy direction of this government. UPA 1 and 2, where if you look at it, many things that have happened wouldn't have happened but for the left. Whether it's the rural employment guarantee scheme, the right to information, all these rights. What was our conception? The Constitution has given us certain fundamental rights. Those fundamental rights, they do not include the right to employment as a fundamental right. But the right to property is fundamental, but not the right to employment. So you extend that. Rural employment, right to food security, education, all these things, these were extension of the rights that you already had. Now, both from globally as well as domestically, there are sections, reactionary sections, very powerful sections, who are not really happy with these sort of changes or reforms, including those who were there in the government also. Many of them would also resist. So then there was actually, things saying that an opinion that emerged, keep the left at bay. So in Bengal, in other places, there was a grand coalition, so to speak, of a right-wing coalition, it spanned from the RSS to the ultra-left, to the Maoists, all of them coming together. So that is what, they were all ranged against us. And then you had the Indo-US nuclear deal, and it took India closer to the US, etc. And they were naturally, not interested in the left being there. So there are various factors put together, apart from our own shortcomings, that contributed to this. But we are trying to overcome all that. Let's see.
So was it a great mistake not to have Jyoti Basu as to accept the PMship?
Well, that's history now. What's the point?
But you all love history.
We all love history because there's an easy escape route. We all enjoy, I think. But then, what's the point? It was the party was divided on that, and we went to the party congress, and they was voting, and all that now is part of history. Yes.
Was that strident opposition to the nuclear deal really worthwhile in hindsight?
Well, you see, there was a possibility of actually. The first point there is, you please understand, our support to the UPA was on the basis of the common minimum program. The nuclear deal was not part of that. It was never, even envisaged at that point. So it was suddenly brought in by the Prime Minister then. So when it came in, we said we had our objections because it is not going to stop at a civil nuclear. I remember saying that at that point of time in the Parliament itself, there is not a single megawatt of nuclear power that will be added to the country. That's happened. You have not augmented any. So it's not a civilian nuclear deal. It was a nuclear deal that opened the gateways for India to a greater strategic ally of the USA and to link up Indian policy direction along with that of US interests. That was our basic objection. I said, you are taking India away into that direction. So the way that could have been handled, that's a different issue. But the fact that they went in that direction itself was something which I think in the long term India is going to actually, which is happening now. You've been reduced virtually into a subordinate ally of the USA in every matter. And the world is wanting to, favoring you or wanting to please you because of your being next to China and a bulwark to China. So in the US-China battle, we are being used as a pawn. But what is our own national interest? That should be the supreme thing, not really whose interests are we serving. So the nuclear deal thing, it could have been kept on hold then, but then that didn't happen. But I think in the long term, I mean, we are already seeing it unfolding. The sort of
I'll tell you a very interesting anecdote, not part of the discussion. I'm just tempted. A delegation of 100 British industrialists was in Mumbai then. It was July the 2008, and it was led by Sandy Berger. I had interviewed Sandy Berger. I was then with the business paper. So I asked Sandy Berger, next month Prakash Karat had threatened to withdraw the support and government will collapse. So Sandy Berger, I mean, looking at completely stunned in my face, he said, yeah, that's going to happen, but government will not fall. So there were larger things at play, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, now it's not correct. I think some of these main players have gone. I mean, they're no longer alive. But if you remember, an important politician at that point of time, who was in Miami, I think, and he said he'll come back and then we'll tell you our position. That was party, and then they shifted the government. So that says.
I remember that day. I had reported that day. Anyway, तुम्ही सगळे विचारत नाहीत म्हणून मी बडबड करतो.
So what about the as per as possible? Why it is mentioned in the resolution?
That's because you see Kerala, and the contest is basically between the left-led LDF and the Congress-led UDF.
Okay.
And because of that contest, I mean, BJP doesn't get a single MLA, leave alone an MP elected. So neither the Congress will give up Kerala to the left, neither the left will give up Kerala to the Congress.
That's right.
And I mean, it's better for the country and for the state that the contest is between us.
Okay.
So there can't be an adjustment.
Yes.
In Bengal, the Congress, the left, and the other secular forces are ranged against BJP and Trinamool Congress.
Okay.
Even the other day, the by-elections, now the by-elections will be there. You see the violence that is unleashed there.
And what about the Punjab and Delhi?
Yeah, Punjab will also be, and Delhi, though there is a possibility of some understanding for the parliament election.
Okay.
For the parliament election.
Okay.
So Punjab will have to wait and see. We'll try to work that out also. I hope that will also work out.
But left's role will be critical as far as West Bengal is concerned. How you want to have track with Congress and Mamata and still be a challenger to her?
Well, that will happen. Like for the parliament election, it will be. I mean, when it comes down to assembly elections, there will be, of course, a lot of this thing. For example, these 5 states now. I'm sure in many of these states, the constituents of India will be contesting independently. Yeah. So that will happen in the assembly elections. But as far as possible that was put in there to ensure that we get the largest extent.
Okay. But are you sure that bitterness that comes when contesting each other will be capped or will be limited only for those states? It will not spill over to...
Well, that depends on the maturity of the parties concerned. You remember in 2004, left 161 Loksatta MPs.
Yeah.
57 of them won by defeating the Congress candidate. Yet we supported Manmohan Singh government. So it all depends on the maturity of the political parties concerned. We hope they realize the...
And now more than the maturity, desperation matters.
And another thing is, what about this as per one nation, one elections?
What's your take on
No, that is not possible in a democratic system like ours, governed by our constitution. You see, any government must enjoy the majority of the legislature. Now, the moment that majority is lost for any reason, if it's a coalition government, one partner moving out or the other going away, then if the government cannot prove its majority in the House, then it's not a legitimate government. It doesn't enjoy the right of the majority. So there's no option but to go back to the people. That is what your constitution says. Now, supposing you have one country, one election. If if the government falls in any particular state, then till the time of that election, who will be the government? Either you have an illegitimate government
Or you have presidents.
or president's rule. No president's rule, then direct assault again on the rights of the states. Article 1 of your constitution says India shall be a union of states. So that will be a violation. Allowing an illegitimate government to continue will be anti-democratic. So how do you, remember in 1952 when you started, they were simultaneous. Why did it break?
Yeah.
It broke because Article 356 was misused. You dismissed elected governments. And therefore you had to have the mismatch came about. That's how it all began. First with the Kerala in 57.
But if it is argued, then the current regime will say that that's exactly is the point we are trying to correct.
What?
This Article 356 was misused.
To abolish it.
Abolish it.
My answer to them was, if you want to correct it, then abolish 356.
So you will say, if you want to go for one nation, one election, first abolish Article 356?
No, even after that there will be problems. Suppose nobody gets a majority, it's a hung assembly. Then the efforts will be made to form a government through forging a coalition.
Yeah.
No, that coalition, how permanent it will be, how it will be a suspect. Nobody can say. And if it collapses in halfway through, then either, that's what I'm saying, either you be anti-democratic by allowing a illegitimate government to continue,
that issue will remain same.
or impose president's rule, and then take the rights of the states.
Is it possible that Lok Sabha elections may be preponed in December or January with 4 or 5 states?
Yeah, it's possible.
And that may be the agenda for special session?
The special session.
Yeah.
Could be.
But why special session?
No, 1 month
that can be done
extension.
without a session.
1 month extension. 1 or 2 months extension for assembly.
Extension for the assemblies.
Yeah, 4 or 5 assemblies.
That
then
they
if
can.
they want to conduct in January or in February, then they have to extend the date of assembly.
But Parliament doesn't have that right to extend the life of the assemblies. That they'll have to do some other trick whereby using the clause saying 6 months. That time gap.
So what will be India as a bloc its stand on if government try to pushes this one nation, one election? Because the 12, 13 states doesn't have, they are non-NDA states, but states like Maharashtra, which has already welcomed the move. So how you, as a political bloc, you will handle this?
I think by and large, most of the parties in India would oppose it. For the democratic, reasons, not for any vested interest, in the sense that this actually destroys the very system. Instead of being a federal system, you are converting it slowly into a unitary system. And the unitary system suits the objective of a centralized state.
As it is, our parliamentary system is becoming like a presidential election.
Exactly.
Parliamentary elections, yeah.
As already that is how they are trying to reduce it to. But if you take these sort of measures, one election, a single election for the whole country, overriding all the other democratic aspects of it, then that will be further moving towards a unitary state. No? I think, therefore, many of the parties may not agree to it.
But unfortunately, Akali Dal and Orissa Panda, Biju Janata Dal, he has also welcomed. So three states rather, UP obviously BJP, but Maharashtra, Akali Dal in Punjab and Orissa. And these states have welcomed the move.
I don't know what is their, what you all interest involved in it, but Orissa was always simultaneous.
Yeah,
Odisha
yeah.
Even last year.
Even
last time.
So for them it doesn't really make any.
Yeah.
So Orissa, Andhra, United Andhra were simultaneous. So that simultaneous thing, when the state got divided, then Telangana split away, and they postponed the last assembly, preponed the last assembly.
Yeah.
So that link broke. But Andhra today also is simultaneous.
So I'm trying to play devil's advocate. There are two arguments largely. One is they say it will save cost, and the common man is accept. Oh yeah, a lot of cost because there is no perennial kind of what do you call it? This code of conduct situation. That one, and secondly, the argument put up by the BJP is that in any case people are mature enough to vote. For parliamentary elections and assembly elections, they vote differently. So, what is the problem in having simultaneous elections?
The problem is essentially what I told you.
Other than the constitutional or whatever you were saying, but common man is willing to buy. That's the only thing.
I don't think it's more of a middle class sentiment than a common man. In fact, in many places, the common man, when he goes to campaign, they says, "Sir, yeah, 5 साल में एक बार क्यों आते चुनाव? हर साल क्यों नहीं आते?" तो बोला क्यों? कहते अभी तो मिलता है हमें कुछ सामान, मतलब आप लोग आके देते हो, रोड बनता है, पानी आता है, बिजली आता है, हमें कंबल मिलता है, मतलब अभी ये तो वो कहता है 5 साल तक क्यों नहीं लग रहा, हर साल करिए चुनाव. This is the common man. They asked, I was asked this question directly once.
Sir, what do you think will be the impact of Ram Mandir issue, which they are planning to do in January, February, election go as planned on the general elections?
So what will
be the impact of Ram Mandir issue?
Well, they are hoping that will have a very big impact on the electorate. But I think the impact already has, whatever had to happen has already happened. I think that there were not going to be any extra thing, but they'll try to extract as much mileage as possible. That's why it has been planned also. The timing, if you look at it, January, February, and then April you have the general election. So it's actually time to make an impact on it.
So on this Ram Mandir issue, do you think, a person like Ram Manohar Lohia, he talked about importance of Ram and Krishna in Hindu culture. You took a too extreme stand and you become completely disconnected with the common man, common sentiment.
No, you see, the question is, the destruction of the Babri Masjid is a separate issue from your devotion to Ram. Lohia's talking about Ram, Gandhi talking about Ram, or the Ram Raj. They are all entirely different from the Ram that they are talking and projecting. That's why they never will say Jai Siya Ram. They'll only say Jai Shri Ram. Their slogan is always that. So when I say, I play around with my own name also. No? So that's why. So I said, you can't stop Sitaram from saying Jai Siya Ram. So they get very irritated. But so this is the masculinity or the power of Ram being used for a political purpose. So what Lohia talked of, Gandhi talked of was a entirely different benign thing.
That was the Ram with the Abhay Mudra.
That was the Ram, as they used to call him, Maryada Purushottam.
But then this Hindutva, especially RSS Hindutva, do you think it is a Brahminization of whole Hindu sentiment?
Absolutely. I mean, Manusmriti happens to be the pivotal pin around which their structuring of the society comes about. Whatever they may say for electoral reasons, OBCs, Vagyas, Dalits, etc., etc. But essentially, it is the upper caste Hindu, the Manusmriti order. I mean, look at the treatment of women now. It completely tallies with what the Manusmriti says. Look at the way the Kapanchayats are allowed to function. I mean, in practice, what is happening is that you have the entire Manusmriti being, legitimized, in the sense, given greater legitimacy. So, which is basically a Brahminical top-down order.
We picked up recently, this week only, we had a very interesting article. India meeting happening in Mumbai, and there is no word about Dalit forces. Once it was a very powerful tool to have. Every other party, political force is now there's a division, either be on the side of the BJP or opposite. But Dalits are nowhere to be seen. Do you think they have lost their political relevance?
No. They are relevant, but the parties that claim to represent the Dalits, they may be having some points, but the issue, the Dalit issue, and the caste discrimination continue to remain a very important issue.
But why it is not then coming to the fore on political agenda?
That is, the main party being the BSP, and being what it is, and the major player in Indian politics today is the ED and the CBI. They are the main political parties. So they determine who is taking what position.
Well, it's a compliment to your party that they're the least afraid of the ED and the CBI.
I'm not sorry?
It's a compliment to your party. Least afraid of ED and CBI.
Well, I don't know how people view it. You remember there was a humorist called Jaspal Bhatti. Remember? So one day we were just walking, many years ago, must be 25 years. That was walking in Chandigarh, and he used to have the habit of holding corner meetings. He would. So suddenly he saw me. I said, now I've had it, because he's going to pull me like this or something. So he took me onto the stage. That was the days when that Hawala scam was going. So then he started saying, देखिए ये भी आएंगे आपके पास वोट मांगने, लेकिन इसको वोट देने का कोई मतलब नहीं है. तो इसको मत दीजिए वोट का, ये तो निकम्मे लोग हैं. इनमें से ये कम्युनिस्टों में से एक भी नाम ये हवाला की लिस्ट में नहीं आया. अगर भ्रष्टाचार भी नहीं कर सकते तो राज कैसे करेंगे? So when you say it's a good compliment to my party,
तो आपके डिफेक्शन इंजीनियर करने का मेरा कोई सवाल नहीं आता.
लेकिन आपके केरल के मिनिस्टर के लिए पीछे लगे ना ईडी वाले आपके केरला के कुछ मिनिस्टर के पीछे लगे
नहीं. वो एक पुराना कई साल पहले की केस है, जिसके ऊपर जो गिल्टी लोग थे उसको पकड़ा गया, उनको हमारे पार्टी से हटा भी दिया. वो उस समय जो मिनिस्टर थे जिसके पीछे ईडी लगी हुई, उस समय डिस्ट्रिक्ट सेक्रेटरी था. Because that particular thing with some cooperative institutions, some scam happened because he is the district secretary. So he is not involved in it at all. That everybody there knows. And those who are involved have already been acted upon.
One India Alliance, about India Alliance question. Battle is clear for Lok Sabha election. NDA versus India or India versus NDA. Modi against who? Modi against who?
Modi against who?
Who is against Modi?
Yeah, they go in our system again. That is converting it back into a presidential form. No, people will vote for their MPs. अब यही सवाल आया था कि at the time of Vajpayee, I mean against Vajpayee who? Who can challenge Vajpayee? Shining India, feel good factor, ये वो सब जब आया था, same thing happened, same arguments. We had to face the same thing, and it'll throw up, and then you had a prime minister for 10 years.
Yeah.
After that,
Manmohan Singh, yes.
you had Manmohan Singh. So the system will throw up. That is.
Margaret Thatcher had refused to join BBC debate, saying that it's a parliamentary democracy. I can't be prime ministerial candidate unless party endorses my. I mean, this is something that's ideal days.
No, that's right.
सर, अभी जो आपने जसपाल भट्टी जी का जो उदाहरण दिया, बात ऐसी है कि if you are in a parliamentary democracy, if you are a political party in a parliamentary democracy, आपको इलेक्शन जीतना एक जरूरी है. अगर आप जीत नहीं पाएंगे तो आप अपनी पॉलिसीज कैसे रखेंगे, आप पॉलिसीज कैसे इम्प्लीमेंट करेंगे? क्या CPM is not is it true that CPM is not taking parliamentary democracy that seriously and they are more concerned about the grassroots movement and they are more focused on mass movements rather than parliamentary democracy?
No, it's not rather than, see, parliamentary democracy is important. When a part of it, then naturally, winning more seats and, getting into a position of influencing policy direction, that's important. There's undoubtedly. I mean, CPM doesn't dilute that importance. But at the same time, the other yardstick for the CPM and the thing is that your ability through popular movements and struggles to influence the nation's agenda. Now, this influencing has been, whether it's the farmer struggle, whether it's the whole struggles against privatization and all this that is going on in the working class, whether it is now the trade unions and the farmers' unions and the agricultural labor unions coming together into a big movement, which will now be extension of the farmers' agitation. I mean, these are the things that are actually the only thing that made Modi reverse his direction was the farmers' struggle. I mean, he had to repeal the laws. He's not done it, no other instance, but that struggle could achieve that. So, that is something on which we put importance, there is no doubt. So, it's not that it is at the expense of the other. We need to do both. And our problem right now is that in the electoral field, we have to, grow further. And that is what we have to do, along with these struggles. We have to combine the two of them.
What is the problem? Why are you not getting that success in electoral politics? You're not compromising anywhere. Is that the reason?
That is one thing, definitely. The other thing is also the character of elections is also undergoing a lot of change. Has undergone a lot of change, not only undergoing. I mean, the role of money power, for instance, is something that is, slowly and increasingly parties like ours will find it very difficult to contest the elections like this. With the sort of money that, nowadays what happens, earlier we used to go, all of us have done party work during elections, so we used to go house to house and distribute your electoral slips. Along with the electoral slips, we give our party manifesto. Now what happens in a cover, if there are 5 voters, the thing, 5 2,000 rupee notes along with the voter slip have been given. What do you do today? Even if you don't want to take it and return it, you don't know where to return it to. That envelope is just put in your letterbox. That is the end of the matter. So that is also affecting us a lot.
Sir.
And then, of course, the normal factors are always about your caste combinations, your caste appeals, things like that.
But Left was always good in understanding caste and social frictions, but still not making headway in political gains. There has to be something other than that also, right?
No.
Your, quote unquote, appeal is little, less attractive. I don't know. I'm just asking.
No, see, whenever any calls that we give for struggles on issues that matter to the people, we find responses good. People respond, people come. But the same thing doesn't happen in terms of elections and voting. Now, what is the difference? That is where I think the system, the way the elections are being conducted now.
The class you work for, laborers and farmers, with the changes in economic structure, liberalization, that class is now transformed into middle class. And once they are into middle class, left is less attractive. Is that the case?
That is partly the case, but I don't think that's a major issue. Because as much as this is shifting into the middle class, that much of poor are already going. Those numbers are increasing, in fact.
True.
In fact, so it's not that the character of the working people has changed. A section is moved upward mobility, but the larger section still remains at the bottom. So it is actually the appeal to them that appeal is there. They come and say, बड़े नेक लोग हो, ये लाल झंडा ही है जो लड़ेगा हमारे साथ वगैरह वगैरह. But when it comes to the voting, पैसे की मामला हो या जो भी हो, जात की बात आ गई.
But taking a cue from what he said, the nature of our economy has changed, which is clear to everybody. Service sector has increased, a gig economy. Why does your party still is so opposed to labour reform?
Labour reform means, what is the labour reform? That is the whole point. What do you mean by labour reform?
An exit for companies which are defunct, for instance, or fixed term employment. These are two things that I
But now
think
most of the employment...
Everything being controlled by the government. What you can do, what you can't do.
No, now most of the employment in the service sector, especially, it's all very flexible. Mostly,
Not under the law as it stands. In practical reality, it is, yes.
How under law? I'm sorry, maybe I'm not able to. Under law, in a service sector, I thought particularly after the COVID and the pandemic, etc., more of working from home has become the norm. And that is not regulated by any laws that you have.
That's a very minuscule minority of people.
The gig workers and all that, they are not...
Gig workers, they are one of the worst sufferers, actually.
And the present law does nothing for them. So,
You don't even have proper laws for casual labor, contract labor. Now, you see, working class, you're talking of labor reform. It's less than 6% of your labor force is organized labor force. 6%. ILO's figure was actually lower than that. Those who have these trade union rights and things like that, it's 6% of your working class. The rest of them are not part of the organized working class. So therefore, I think most of the time, reform labor laws are actually when a charade is being created, it's like it is disproportionately exaggerated, saying that is the problem. That is what appears to us from the side. If 96% of the working people are outside the organized movement and therefore not enjoying the protection of any law. And now with the labor codes that have come and the old laws have gone.
they are not implemented yet. But are you generally in support of the new labor code?
No.
That's what it is.
That's
what I meant.
So isn't it funny? On certain issues, it may be GM's food, seeds, this. You listen the left and right, they are on the same side, including on the labor reform.
Why? The right wants labor reform.
No, I'm talking about what do you call it? The gurus of those right. They don't want like the Kudli Sanghati
Hindu Mazdoor
BMS doesn't, because they have to exist as a trade union. If they don't take that position, Their own trade union becomes weaker.
But the issue is that you and right, both are seen are portrayed as anti-modern, because of this stand. You oppose GM seats, so are the right, You oppose labor reforms, so are they. So isn't it like too much stuck into history or past?
No, but their opposition is not really opposition. No, the GM, I mean, they opposed the WTO when they were in the opposition. When they were in government, they go and implement it. You see, so the point is that what is their opposition for? Gaining some legitimacy amongst the people. But once they are in government, you do exactly the opposite.
It's like exactly like GST.
GST and all that. I mean, GST, how they used to shout horse over that. So there's a special midnight session to implement the GST.
Sir, what's your opinion about the UCC? Civil code?
Oh?
Uniform civil code.
All right.
Uniform civil code.
Uniform civil code.
Uniform civil code.
And other sedition. They are going to repeal Sedition Act.
No, they are not.
Sedition.
Change.
What they are bringing in is much worse than what you have. The name is replaced, but they've brought in conditions and rules which make it much worse, more stringent and more than the existing sedition. Anyway, that's what the Uniform Civil Code is concerned.
Is it present in this special sessions or
The special session,
Special
would it
session,
be for that?
Yeah.
That's his question.
Could be. But they can't really impose it through any bill. Already, what is not covered under law is the personal practices and things, and in all religions. I come from a family where my social code says that my maternal uncle could marry me if I was a girl, that is. It's an automatic choice. In many others, it's not permitted. And next door in Chennai, if you go there, the Tam brand, you can marry your first cousin. In many places, it's not allowed. So, what are you going to uniform? You see, when Nagaland Chief Minister came out of the meeting, Amit Shah, he said the Home Minister promised that Uniform Civil Code does not apply to tribals. Same thing was said about Christians, Parsis, then the Sikhs, Kaltaks. They were. So what is Uniform Civil Code? Who's left? Only Muslims? So you are saying Muslims should adopt the Hindu way of life. That is the meaning of this Uniform Civil Code. If you want a Uniform Civil Code, then sit down with men and women of each of these communities and work out with them what are their practices that need to be uniformized. Uniform doesn't mean equality. Equality you give. Now, what the women's equality, where is it? On paper you exist. Triple Talaq was already ruled as illegal by the Supreme Court. What Modi government did was to criminalize it. A civil dispute, he made it into a criminal dispute. But it was already, illegal. So the point is, there are many other practices that are specific to certain communities. You have a Hindu undivided family, HUF. How much of tax evasion is done through that? Then why are the other religion people denied of that opportunity? Will the Hindus give up HUF? So what is uniform code then? There are all separate. So what we are saying is, yes, ideally uniform civil code, yes, but then the practice you have to sit with each one of these communities and work out the way in which it should be resolved. Even today in many of these societies, the women don't have equal rights. Supreme Court had to recently come out saying that the women have equal share in the marital property.
was done long ago.
In the Hindu.
That was brought in some years ago.
57.
No. In HUF property, that was about 20 years ago.
So, taking this question further, government talked about uniform civil code. It's not going anywhere. They talked about CAA. It's not going anywhere. Similarly, you think this one nation, one election, just a talk, like what they call taste balloon. It will not go anywhere but set the narrative. So, do you think so? It's like UCC, because UCC is not going to happen before election, that's for sure.
Yeah. It is, of course, it is setting a narrative. It is definitely setting a narrative with its explicit aim and purpose of dividing the society.
India.
That is what it is. So, I mean, UCC is now being used for what? Why not equal rights for the? I mean, how can Muslims enjoy a law that is only specific to them, whereas the rest of the society cannot? Targeting particularly. Now, what it is, whether it will be materialized or not is not the issue. The issue is it's an issue for campaign now.
So similarly, it will be one nation, one election. So coming back to the real politics, what will how you see post 2024 election scenario? It's crystal ball gazing. I know. No one likes to be there in that. And but what will be the parliament? How will it look like?
Well, first, let's just win the battle, then we'll tell you what we'll do.
Then we won't come to you to know.
What is also India का resolution हुआ जो road campaign या rally है इसका कौन से डेट से यानी कि 15 तारीख से बोल रहे हैं?
नहीं, अभी तय करना है वो अभी करेंगे, कुछ टेंटेटिव आइडिया है लेकिन फॉर्मलाइज करना पड़ेगा वो इस महीने के अंत से शुरू करने का प्रोसेस है. सो वी वांट टू टेक इट अप बिकॉज बाय नवंबर दिसंबर द स्टेट इलेक्शंस विल कम. सो September October we do all these big meetings in various places. And then the state elections will come, and the other places also these agitations will continue. And we don't want it to be a one-off event. It should be a continuous sort of a thing. So that is what is being worked out.
अभी नेक्स्ट मीटिंग इंडिया की कुछ होने वाली है क्या? अभी खाली जो कोऑर्डिनेशन कमेटी मीटिंग करेगी.
अभी मीटिंग है और 3 तो हो चुके हैं. डायरेक्शन सेट हो चुका है, क्या करना है वो तय हो चुका है. अब सवाल ये है कि अब लोगों के पास जाना है. अब वो है अब प्रायोरिटी. ज़रूरत पड़ेगी तो मिलेंगे, चुनाव जैसे नज़दीक आएंगे तो मिलना ही पड़ेगा. एक कॉमन डिक्लेरेशन के लिए या कॉमन सेट ऑफ डिमांड्स व्हाट विल प्लेस बिफोर द पीपल, वो सब होगा. लेकिन बेसिक फोकस अब होगा टू गो टू द पीपल नाउ डायरेक्टली.
5 राज्यों का जो इलेक्शन आ रहा है दिसंबर में, राजस्थान, मध्य प्रदेश, तेलंगाना, वो इंडिया का क्या alliance with the BRS in Telangana?
No, they did not. They have declared all the seats. They wanted an alliance with us. He is the one who came in matters, and then in the by-elections he had an alliance with the left.
Okay.
But now he is.
Current politics पे आप कुछ लिख रहे हैं?
लिख रहे हैं?
आप politics में आपके काफी किताब
नहीं तो लिखते हैं.
Stop his column.
Start a column. बंद कर दिया भाई.
So what about the future about KCR, the BRS party?
Future, but he's very confident he's going to win.
Okay.
Telangana, he's got a lot of money with him.
Then he will return.
इंडिया में आंध्रा का कोई भी नहीं अपोजिशन. आंध्रा का उत्तर प्रदेश से चंद्रबाबू ने ये
यही तो ना. अब वो भी कोशिश कर रहे हैं सब लोग. पवन कल्याण, चंद्रबाबू, कांग्रेस तो वर्चुअली बिखरी हुई है वहाँ पे, अनफॉर्चुनेटली।
प्रकाश आंबेडकर आपके दोस्त है, उसको कुछ कन्विंस कर रहे हैं क्या?
अब पता नहीं, प्रकाश पिछले चुनाव में तो प्रकाश आंबेडकर कितना भी अच्छा दोस्त है, मतलब, लेकिन चला गया दूसरी तरफ।
You should have been in view of Prakash. He could afford a chopper for campaigning. So they can't afford. See, I have a question about Northeast. You have been spending a lot of time in Manipur and regions. What exactly your observation there? What is the issue and what is the way forward now?
It's a very dangerous situation, I'm telling you, because unfortunately, the needed attention is not being paid to what is happening there. It's not merely an ethnic, discordant issue. Yes, ethnic issues and the question of tribal identities and the disputes within them have been existing there in the entire Northeast for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new. But when the states were formed, it was formed on the basis of certain agreement about each one of these tribes. Now in Manipur, they have traditionally three dominant, major tribes: Metis, Kukis, and the Nagas. So the Kukis suddenly have now started being told that they are illegal migrants from Burma. This illegal migration business, what this about? They say that we are as much originally here as anybody else. If there's illegal thing, we have been telling this government, not only this government, even the earlier Congress governments, everybody. Please, for heaven's sake, if you're complaining about illegal business, you fence your borders. If you can fence your western border, why can't you fence this side?
It's very porous, actually.
They just, Tripura, when we had our state government, the Tripura government financed partly fencing, that thing with Bangladesh. So, anyway, that's a separate problem. Here now the situation has reached such a stage whereby when the British, when they were administrating, including Burma, when they divided up, etc., they created two areas in Manipur, the hill and the valley. The hills were all in Kukis and Nagas, and the valley was all Meitei. Now, when we went there, it was amazing because there are 10 Kuki MLAs. They can't enter the assembly because it lies in the, Meitei area. And when I went there with the delegation, our party secretary is a Meitei. And from the valley, when we moved into Jorachandpur, that Kuki area, all the Meiteis had to be had to get down the cars, the vehicles.
We won't come.
They can't enter. Our own party people, the other side, they said, why can't your secretary enter? They said, we can protect them, but we can't protect them from the others. I don't know how they'll react. A Meitei can't enter the Kuki areas, a Kuki can't enter the Meitei areas.
So what is the way out now?
Security, the security people, the Meitei security had to get out from the vehicles. Only Kuki security will be there. The only people who are trusted there by both Meitei and Kukis are what they call the Pangals. Pangals are Muslims.
Oh, okay.
They are also tribal. They could be Kuki, they could be Meitei, but those Muslim, those called as Pangals, they came. So the driver was a Pangal. The security was a Pangal. Only then the vehicle could move. And their borders, they are not manned by anybody but people. 3 levels of barricades. And the barricaded people have to be told that so-and-so car is coming with so-and-so number, so-and-so people. Then they, with the number, etc., and one of them is waiting there on the other side of the barricade to tell them that these are the people.
Sorry for an ignorant question, but do they look different? Kukis and Meiteis?
No, I can't make out anything.
So they don't.
Yeah.
But how people identify?
No, then how do they
Cookie?
identify?
I mean,
Who's who?
they know. I mean, maybe there are differences that they notice, which you and I are not able
But they
to
are not
do.
apparent.
No.
But what is the then solution to it now? Do you foresee it's spiraling into major controversy? I mean, major issue in other states also.
Absolutely. That is the thing. That is why the urgency is not being realized by them, or maybe they're deliberately doing it. I don't know. Because the what you call stories appeared in the media that before the elections, last elections, the what you call the Assam Chief Minister and the BJP in charge of the Northeast, they met certain cookie militant outfits and and sought their support. And that cookie militant outfit leader said this in an affidavit that we supported the BJP. That's why they won the election. That's why the present chief minister is there, Biren Shah, and we helped them in the parliament election also, not only the assembly. Now this chief minister immediately says he gives an interview publicly. He says that the cookies are all from they all come from Burma. They're illegal. Chief Minister. Union Home Minister says that in the Parliament, that they have come from illegal migrants from Burma. So they say with our support they won the election and now they are doing this. So now Mizoram is already affected. Now the last one when we were there, the second day we were there was an attack on cookie. The three of the cookies were killed. But that happened in an area where the Nagas live. So Naga Council, United Naga Council, it has come into the picture. Till now they did not interfere. It has come into the picture saying that this violence, if it happens on our lands, then we cannot keep quiet. Next door is Nagaland.
So it's very
You have a Naga Accord, you have a Mizo Accord. Now all these things have question marks are appearing on them. The way out of all these things, whenever you had such problems, we always did this. I mean, they would first of all be an all-party delegation led by the Union Home Minister that goes there. I've been on 3 of such things when trouble happened in Kashmir. I went with Shivraj Patil, with Chidambaram, and then with Rajnath Singh, under Modi government, the last of the lot. So that they didn't do. Call all of them together and talk to them. No, even when the Home Minister went there, he may have met them separately, but he did not, together call them and meet. So some effort to try and bring them all to a table to discuss. If that is not taken, then there's no beginning, no?
Yeah.
You have to do that. That is what we have suggested. Immediately take an all-party delegation.
Before leaving for US, I remember Bajpayee had invited Harkishan Surjit. जोर से आवाज करो. So that kind of a dialogue is completely now.
Excellent.
So when did you last meet? Maybe PM or Mr. Shah, one-on-one?
No. Last I met the PM was in a meeting convened by a meeting of all the parties convened for G20.
Okay. Last year.
Last year.
December.
Last December.
Yeah.
And before that was another thing that was convened by the President of India for something. Only these official things we meet. That's all.
There is no dialogue with opposition.
Normally when you go to the parliament, you used to run into all these people. You see. But nowadays you don't run into anybody.
You run away from.
Except the old staff who says, "आपके इंतजार कर रहे हैं सर."
Now the smoking lounge का भी
अभी तक वो बचा है.
नया पार्लियामेंट हाउस में तो सेंटर हॉल भी नहीं है.
नहीं है उसमें. मैं तो अंदर गया ही नहीं उसके. मतलब I don't know how it is.
Well, purely academic question. What will happen to India 2026 onwards? Once the delimitation process sets in, and 2031 there's new structure comes in when 4 states will have 55-60% representation in parliament vis-a-vis the rest of India. How you foresee it?
That's one. It requires a serious discussion on that. I mean, we'll have to, if you want to ensure that India remains a federal democracy, then we have to seriously, discuss this entire issue of representation in your legislatures and parliament. No, that is something that the government, but if the government's design is to ensure that this sort of a domination exists, then there's nothing that can be done. But in the interest of democracy and democratic structures, a serious discussion will have to take place in this. It's very important, otherwise just 4 states now. And that is something I'm sure it is already causing a lot of heartburn.
Just from yesterday's meeting, do you think Stalin's speech in Tamil was a political statement yesterday?
Yes, actually, obviously.
Yesterday's speech.
In fact, I don't know if you were there, but
You can speak in Andhra,
Telugu. I asked whether I should speak in Telugu.
But that was the beauty of idea called India. George Fernandez is born in Bihar, getting elected from, Bangalore, Bihar, Mumbai.
Really?
That thing is gone these days.
You can speak in Tamil also, sir. You can speak in Tamil also, no?
No.
So how many languages?
Bengali?
So many of you, many of outside you are considered as Bengali. Just because you are left out.
But now your natives in Tamil, Andhra or in Telangana?
My native is now in Andhra.
Andhra, okay.
We come from coastal Andhra.
Coastal, okay.
तो आपने बुक घृणा की राजनीति
I'm sorry?
घृणा की राजनीति आपने बुक लिखा
हाँ जी
इसका भी पार्ट 2 वगैरह कुछ आ रहा है अभी जो चल रहा है सब इतना
इसका लिखना चाहिए यार सही बात है कोशिश कर दो
You write only for party literature?
No, that's it. Since I became General Secretary, I stopped my column also in HT. I used to write.
Popular.
And that also I had to stop. अब एक बार लिखने की आदत हट जाती तो वो भी खतरनाक है ना
You had written about Golwalkar's book. Planning to reprint it or because
it's more relevant now actually.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, we'll consider doing that. With a proper introduction or a preface.
But it's not surprising that you haven't realized that it's a proper time. You people are known for missing bus, all the time. There used to be a lot of a very strong left force in Maharashtra. It seemed diminishing,
From the time of Dange.
Dange, it was born in. The Maoist movement had a lot of.
This was our headquarters.
Other Randivan US la comrade Randivan. So,
Randive, Ahilya,
Sansgiri.
Now the Danu and Talasari is
Yeah. Danu Talasari, that Thane, that belt is there.
Yeah. ML is also there. The party ML is
ML is also.
But you lost interest in Maharashtra? And you're not getting good base or people? Or what is the reason? Maharashtra suddenly is not on your radar.
No, wait, Maharashtra, the backbone of the governance movement in Maharashtra was the working class.
Yeah.
The working class has vanished from Bombay now. That is natural law of capitalist development.
I think
the industry shifts outside of the, then it goes out to the suburbs. So now it's essentially Thane and Nasik, these are the areas.
But it's just done a complete, it's a full circle now. I remember I read about it because I was too young. Comrade Desai murder case, Shiv Sena, and now you and Shiv Sena together.
That's what yesterday was saying. हमारे यूनियनों को तो आप ही ने तो तोड़ा. I told her.
Yeah, that's right. It is 69, right?
Yeah,
69.
Krishna Desai murder case.
Krishna Desai murder case.
But how do you find Uddhav Thackeray compared to the previous Shiv Sena?
This Shiv Sena, I mean, Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena, I find it a little different. I mean, they may have the same ideology, etc., but the way of functioning and the way of thinking, I think that is different from what it used to be when the earlier Shiv Sena that we saw. I don't know how the other one, Eknath Shinde thing is, how they are there, but with Uddhav Thackeray, of course, I mean, he's also personally, he gets along well with people. And so far, no other issue of such a dimension has emerged where a conflicting thing can happen. So far, it's not come up. So,
Savarkar issue was not discussed. Savarkar issue was not discussed.
Savarkar issue, I mean, it didn't come up. And I keep telling him, but that is a fact. Kya kar loge tum?
Yeah, that's the only.
You see, the only way is like what the Modi government is planning to do, I'm told. You go to the cellular jail in Andaman. There in marble, there's a big, on four sides of the central pillar, you have all the names of people who were kept there. 80% of them are communists. Or later they were. 80%. Punjab, and bulk of them are Punjab and Bengal. Undivided Punjab, undivided Bengal. Now, they can't do anything about it, that's history. So, only thing they can do is remove those flags. In the name of reconstruction, they want to remove it. So, that is how your history will be distorted.
Amazing.
So, Savarkar reminded me of the cellular jail.
But that is an interesting story came out of it.
Oh.
It's worth mentioning.
This is what.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. It always is. I mean,